The night was colder than usual, and the man was sitting alone outside his small wooden house at the edge of the village. The wind carried the smell of smoke and dust, and the streets were empty. People feared the dark because in the shadows anything could be waiting, bandits, wild beasts, or worse. He was about to go inside when he heard a faint sound. It was soft, almost like the whimper of a small animal. He frowned and followed the noise. At first he thought it was a stray dog, but when he turned the corner, he froze. A tiny figure was crouched near the trash bin behind his house. Her hands shook as she tried to pick crumbs from the ground. In the dim light, he saw her face, thin, hollow cheeks, and large, glowing eyes. She was not human. She was an alien child. The little girl gasped when she saw him. She dropped the piece of bread she had stolen and tried to run, but her legs wobbled. Hunger had made her too weak. She stumbled and fell to the ground, curling up like she expected to be beaten. The man stepped closer, his voice low. "Hey, I won't hurt you." She shook her head, trembling, and whispered in broken words, "Don't take me. Don't call them." He understood what she meant. If the villagers saw her, they would drag her away. The people here hated outsiders, especially aliens. They called them cursed, unclean, dangerous. A child like her would not survive. He slowly bent down and picked up the fallen bread. Instead of eating it himself, he held it out to her. She stared at the food with wide eyes, not believing. "Go on," he said gently. "You need it more than I do." For a moment, she hesitated. Then hunger won. She snatched the bread and stuffed it into her mouth. Her small body shook as she ate, as if she hadn't tasted food in days. He could see tears glistening on her dirty cheeks. He felt something heavy in his chest. She was just a child, alone. In a world that despised her, why was she here? Where were her parents? When the bread was gone, she looked up at him with those glowing eyes. Her voice was weak but firm. "Why, help me?" He didn't know how to answer. He only said, "Because you're hungry." The girl blinked, and for the first time her lips curved into the smallest smile. It was fragile, like a flower in the desert. Then she stood up, unsteady on her thin legs. She looked at him, and her voice lowered to a whisper, almost like a secret. "I will come back. With someone." Before he could ask what she meant, she turned and disappeared into the night. The man stood there, staring into the darkness where she had gone. His mind was restless. Who was she? Why was she alone? And why did she say she would come back? He didn't know it yet, but this small act of kindness, giving a starving alien child a piece of bread, was going to change his entire life. The man could not forget the little alien girl. Every night he wondered if she was alive, if she had found food, if she had someone to care for her. Her glowing eyes and small smile haunted his mind. 3 days passed. Then on the 4th night, he heard a knock at his door. It was soft at first, like the tap of a bird. He opened the door slowly, expecting maybe a neighbor. Instead, he froze. It was her. The hungry little girl stood there again, but this time she was not alone. Behind her was a woman, taller, older, with the same glowing eyes. Her face was thin, her skin pale, her body weak. She held herself with dignity, but the way she leaned on the wall showed she had little strength left. The girl looked up at him, her voice almost breaking. "I came back with my mom." The man's chest tightened. He stepped aside, letting them in quickly before anyone saw. He shut the door fast and locked it. His heart pounded. If the neighbors saw aliens entering his house, they would call the soldiers at once. The woman bowed her head slightly. Her voice was soft, heavy with shame. "Human, I am sorry. My daughter told me you gave her food. I had no choice but to follow her here. We have nowhere else to go." Her words were slow but clear. She spoke like someone who once had respect, but had lost everything. The man studied her. She looked sick, maybe starving even more than the child. He could see the bones in her arms, the tiredness in her eyes. The little girl clung to her mother's side and whispered, "He is kind, Mama. He helped me." The woman's lips trembled. She lowered her head further. "Please forgive us. We will not stay long, just one night, just enough for my child to rest." The man was silent for a moment. He knew the danger. If anyone found out, he could be punished. The village hated outsiders. Soldiers patrolled often, even helping them with food would be considered a crime. But he looked at the girl, her tiny hand holding her mother's. He remembered how she had eaten the bread with tears in her eyes. He could not send them away. "You can stay," he said firmly. "At least tonight. You both need rest." The girl's eyes lit up, and for the first time, her face showed joy. She ran to the small table where he placed food. He quickly brought out bread, soup, and water. The woman hesitated, too proud to eat like a beggar, but the man pushed the bowl toward her. "Eat," he said. "Both of you, please." The mother finally gave in. She ate slowly, carefully, while her daughter devoured the food like she feared it would vanish. Afterward, the girl curled up in a blanket on the floor and soon fell asleep. The man watched her tiny chest rise and fall. She looked peaceful now, no longer the starving thief he had found days ago. The woman sat quietly, staring at the fire. Finally, she spoke again. "You risk much for us, human. If they find out, they will punish you." The man answered simply, "I don't care. No one deserves to starve." The woman looked at him for a long time. Then she lowered her voice to a whisper. "We will not forget this. You saved us when no one else would." Her eyes glistened, but she quickly turned away, hiding her weakness. The man didn't know what would happen next, but deep down, he felt his life was already changing. Outside, footsteps echoed faintly in the night. Someone was walking past his house. He held his breath, praying they would not knock. The danger was only beginning. The next morning, the man woke early. Sunlight pushed through the cracks of the wooden shutters, and for a moment he thought last night was only a dream. But when he turned, he saw them. The little alien girl still sleeping on the blanket, her mother sitting beside her, awake but silent. The woman's glowing eyes watched him carefully. She did not trust easily. She was a stranger in a hostile world, and every small sound seemed to make her tense. "You didn't leave," he said quietly. The woman lowered her gaze. "We had nowhere to go. If we walk the roads, they will catch us. If we hide in the woods, we will starve." Her words were true. The man knew the soldiers were strict. Any alien found outside the camps was punished, or worse. And yet, something inside him told him he could not just push them out. The girl stirred, rubbing her sleepy eyes. When she saw the man, she smiled brightly. "You kept us safe," she whispered. Her innocent voice broke the silence. The man sighed deeply. He looked at them both, the mother proud but broken, and the child, fragile but hopeful. Then he made a choice. "You can stay here," he said slowly. "Not just one night, for as long as you need." The girl gasped and hugged him, surprising him with her sudden affection. The mother, however, shook her head quickly. "No, we cannot. You risk too much. If your people discover us, they will not forgive you." The man crossed his arms. "And if I send you out, what happens then? You'll die. I can't live with that on my conscience." The woman looked down at her daughter, who was still clinging to the man's arm. A long silence passed. Finally, she nodded once. "Very well. But if we stay, I will work. I will not be useless. I can clean. I can cook. I can help." The man almost smiled. "Fine. But first, you both eat. You need strength." Later that day, he went to the market. He tried to act normal. But he knew his neighbors were watchful. He bought more food than usual, and immediately, a trader raised an eyebrow. "Big appetite, huh?" the trader joked. "Or maybe feeding someone else?" The man forced a laugh. "Just hungry these days, nothing more." But inside, his chest tightened. Rumors spread quickly in the village. He had to be careful. When he returned home, the girl was waiting at the door, her eyes shining. She helped him carry the basket inside, even though it was heavy for her tiny arms. That evening, as the fire burned low, the mother finally spoke again. "Why are you doing this, human? Why risk your life for strangers?" The man thought for a while. "Because you shouldn't be strangers. You're people. You have a right to live." The woman's eyes softened for the first time. She whispered something in her own alien tongue, words the man could not understand, but he knew the meaning was gratitude. For a brief moment, the house felt warm, almost like a family's home. The girl laughed as she played with a small wooden toy he gave her. The mother allowed herself to relax, her shoulders no longer stiff with fear. But outside, the danger grew. The same trader who had questioned him at the market was now whispering to others. People had begun to notice his strange behavior. That night, as the man closed the shutters, he heard voices in the distance. Neighbors, talking too loudly, speaking of suspicion. He stood at the window, staring into the dark, knowing trouble was drawing closer. Inside, the little alien girl hugged her mother and whispered, "We are safe here." The man wanted to believe her, but deep down he knew the safety would not last forever. The days turned into weeks, and slowly the little house at the edge of the village began to feel different. What was once silent and lonely now carried soft voices, small laughter, and the smell of warm food. The little alien girl was no longer the frightened child who ate crumbs from the ground. She now ran around the house with energy, her glowing eyes filled with joy. Sometimes she would tug at the man's sleeve and demand, "Play with me!" He would pretend to be annoyed, but in truth her laughter filled the emptiness he had carried for years. The mother, however, was more careful. She worked quietly, cleaning the house, washing clothes, and helping in the small garden behind the house. Her movements were gentle but skilled. Every action showed pride, as if she wanted to repay him without saying the words aloud. One evening, as the man returned from the fields, he found the girl sitting on the porch with a small wooden toy he had given her. She looked up and said, "You are safe." He smiled. "No, little one. It's you who is safe." She shook her head firmly. "No, you are safe because we are here now." The words startled him. It was strange to think that he, the one offering shelter, was also being protected in some way. But outside the walls of his house, whispers had begun. The trader who had noticed his extra purchases now told others, "He buys more food than one man can eat." Another neighbor added, "I saw shadows in his window at night, more than one shape." Suspicion spread like smoke. The man tried to ignore it. He kept his guests hidden when visitors came by, but he could feel the walls closing in. Every step he took in the market, every glance he caught from the villagers, carried unspoken questions. Inside the home, though, bonds grew stronger. One night during dinner, the mother finally spoke more openly. "You should not risk yourself like this," she said softly. "We are grateful, but this burden is too heavy for one man." The man put down his cup. "It isn't a burden, not anymore. I thought I was alone in this world, but now, this house feels alive again." Her eyes softened, but she quickly looked away. She was not ready to show too much emotion. Still, the small smile on her lips betrayed her gratitude. Later that night, as the fire burned low, the girl crawled onto the man's lap. "Tell me a story," she demanded. He hesitated, then began to speak of old tales, heroes, brave warriors, and travelers who crossed dangerous lands. The girl's eyes sparkled with wonder. Even her mother listened quietly, her expression unreadable. By the time the story ended, the girl had fallen asleep against his chest. He carefully carried her to the blanket and covered her. The mother watched silently. For a moment, their eyes met, and in that silence, something unspoken passed between them. Trust. Fragile, but real. But peace never lasted long. The very next morning, as the man stepped outside, he noticed two soldiers walking down the street, stopping at doors, questioning villagers. His heart sank. He knew they were searching for something, or someone. When he returned inside, the mother had already sensed the danger. She looked at him sharply. "They're coming closer, aren't they?" He nodded. The little girl, unaware of the full danger, only whispered, "You will protect us, right?" The man forced a smile. "Always." But deep inside, fear pressed against his heart. Their bond was growing stronger every day, but so was the threat that could tear it apart. The village grew restless. Whispers turned into louder voices, and the man felt eyes on him wherever he went. At the market, people no longer greeted him warmly. Instead, they spoke in half-hidden tones. "He's hiding something," one woman muttered. "No one buys that much food alone," another replied. The man kept his head down, but he could feel the suspicion closing in like a net. At home, life seemed normal. The little girl laughed as she played with her wooden toy. Her mother cooked a small meal, humming quietly in her own language. But beneath the surface, all three of them felt the growing tension. The man often stood by the window, scanning the road for soldiers. The mother noticed his unease, but neither spoke of it in front of the child. One evening, when the sun was setting, the man returned home carrying a heavy basket of bread and vegetables. The trader who sold it had stared at him too long, as if memorizing every detail. The man's chest tightened. Trouble was near. That night, he sat with the mother by the fire while the girl slept. Her glowing eyes reflected the flames as she whispered, "They are watching you, aren't they?" He nodded. "It won't be long before soldiers come knocking." Her hands trembled slightly, though she tried to hide it. "You should let us go, before they bring you harm." But the man shook his head firmly. "If you leave now, you'll die. I won't let that happen." Her voice cracked. "Why? Why risk everything for us?" He looked at the sleeping girl. "Because she deserves a future, and so do you." The mother lowered her gaze. Her pride wouldn't let her cry, but the firelight caught the shine in her eyes. The next morning, the threat became real. Soldiers entered the village. Their boots echoed on the cobblestone paths as they went door to door. Their captain shouted, "We know outsiders are hiding among you. Anyone found protectee, Ting them will be punished." The man watched from his window as neighbors stepped out, trembling, assuring the soldiers they had nothing to hide. His heart pounded. The little girl clung to his leg, whispering, "Don't let them take us." Quickly, he led them to the cellar beneath his house. It was small, dark, and cold, but it would hide them for a short time. He pulled the wooden trapdoor shut just as fists banged against his door. "Open up!" a soldier shouted. The man wiped the sweat from his forehead and opened the door slowly, forcing calm into his voice. "What is it?" The soldiers pushed inside, their eyes scanning the room. One of them sneered. "You live alone, don't you? Strange. Your neighbors say they've seen shadows moving in your house at night." The man forced a laugh. "Shadows? Maybe my lamp burning too late. I can't sleep sometimes." The soldier stepped closer, his boots heavy on the wooden floor. For a terrifying moment, his hand rested on the trap door to the cellar. The man's heart stopped. But just then, another soldier called out from outside. "Captain, someone says the outsiders were seen near the river." The captain growled and waved his men to move. "We'll be back," he warned. When the door closed, the man collapsed into his chair, trembling with relief. Slowly, he lifted the trap door. The girl leapt into his arms while the mother crawled out, her face pale. "They'll return," she whispered. "Next time they won't leave so easily." The man held the girl close, his jaw tight. "Then I'll be ready." But deep down, he knew the walls of safety were breaking. The threat was no longer just whispers. It was standing at his door. The night after the soldiers left, silence hung heavy in the little house. The man sat by the fire, staring at the flames but not really seeing them. His mind replayed every second of the search, the boots on his floor, the soldier's hand resting on the trapdoor, the captain's warning voice. The mother sat across from him, her daughter asleep in her lap. She finally spoke, her voice low. "They will return. Next time, they will not leave without searching every corner." The man nodded. He already knew she was right. He felt the weight of danger pressing closer, like a storm waiting just beyond the horizon. The mother's eyes hardened. "You have done more for us than anyone else ever would. But if we stay, we will bring your death. We should leave before that happens." Her words cut through him. The idea of sending them away filled his chest with a hollow ache. He looked at the girl, peaceful in her mother's arms, her small face calm after so many nights of fear. "Leave?" he whispered. "Where will you go? Out there. You'll be hunted. You'll starve." The mother lowered her gaze. "Better us than you." The man stood abruptly, his voice sharp. "No, I won't let that happen. I made a choice the day I gave her food. You're safe here. This house is yours as long as you need it." The woman stared at him, shocked by the strength in his words. For a moment, she looked like she wanted to argue, but no words came. Instead, she bowed her head, silent. Later that night, the man walked to the cellar. He looked around the small, dark space and began to plan. If soldiers came again, he would need a stronger hiding place. He worked quietly through the night, moving crates, setting blankets, even digging deeper into the earth with a small shovel. His hands blistered, but he didn't stop. By morning, the cellar looked different. There was enough space for the mother and child to hide. Longer, with water and food stored inside. When the mother saw what he had done, her eyes softened. "Why do this?" she asked. "Why put yourself through so much pain for us?" He gave a tired smile. "Because I don't run from what's right." For the first time, she didn't argue. She simply whispered, "Thank you," and he could hear the truth in her voice. That evening, as the girl played near the fire, she looked up suddenly and asked, "Will they come again?" The man knelt beside her and touched her hair gently. "Maybe, but I'll protect you. Always." The little girl's glowing eyes shimmered with tears. She hugged him tightly, whispering, "Then I'm not afraid anymore." Her words struck deep in his heart. For the first time in years, he felt like his life had meaning beyond himself. But peace was short. As night fell, torches lit the road outside. Shadows of soldiers moved closer to the house. Voices carried through the still air. The mother's face turned pale. She clutched her daughter. "They're here again." The man grabbed a lantern, his jaw set. "Go to the cellar, quickly." The mother hesitated. "What about you?" "I'll face them," he said. His eyes burned with determination. "If they find you, they'll take you. But if I stand here, maybe they'll believe my lie again." The mother grabbed his arm, her voice trembling. "You'll be killed." He looked at her firmly. "If I don't try, we all lose. This is my choice." As the soldier's footsteps reached his door, the man stood tall, ready. He had chosen his path, and there was no turning back. The soldiers came again at dawn. Their boots shook the wooden floor as they pushed inside without waiting for permission. The man stood firm by the table, his face calm, but his heart pounded like a drum. The captain stepped forward, his eyes sharp. "We searched this place before. You lied to us, didn't you? Where are they?" The man kept his voice steady. "I told you, I live alone. No one else is here." The soldiers spread out, opening cupboards, overturning chairs, even slamming their hands against the walls. The noise echoed through the house. Beneath the floor, in the dark cellar, the mother held her daughter close. The girl buried her face in her mother's chest, trying not to breathe too loud. One soldier kicked over a basket near the fire. A small wooden toy rolled out across the floor. The soldier bent down, picked it up, and smirked. "Strange," he said, holding it up to the captain. "This isn't human-made. Look at the carving. Alien work." The man's chest tightened. His mind raced for an answer. "I found it in the forest," he said quickly. "Maybe a trader dropped it. I thought it looked interesting." The captain's eyes narrowed. He stepped closer until his face was inches from the man's. "Do you take me for a fool?" The soldier holding the toy grinned cruelly. "Search deeper, Captain. He's hiding them somewhere." The man clenched his fists under the table but forced his face to stay calm. If they lifted the trapdoor, everything would be over. Then, from outside, a shout rang out. "Captain, smoke rising near the east side. Looks like a campfire." The captain turned sharply. "Another false lead," he muttered. He studied the man one last time, then threw the toy back on the floor. "We're not finished here. If we find out you're lying, you'll hang." With that, the soldiers marched out, their boots fading into the distance. The man let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. He knelt, lifted the trapdoor, and whispered, "It's safe." The mother climbed out slowly, still holding her daughter. Her face was pale, but her voice was steady. "They are close, too close. Next time they won't leave." The girl, still shaken, whispered, "They almost found us." Her small hand clutched the man's sleeve like she would never let go. The man placed a hand on her head. "I won't let them take you. I promise." That evening, as the sun sank low, the mother sat by the fire, silent for a long time. Finally, she spoke. "You should not have to suffer for us. This danger, it is ours, not yours." The man shook his head. "It became mine the moment I gave her food. I won't step back now." Her eyes glistened. She whispered something in her own language, then said softly in his, "In my people's law, saving us makes you part of our family. You are no longer just a stranger. You are bound to us." The words struck him like a heavy weight, but not in a bad way. For the first time, he realized how deep this bond had grown. But outside, he heard another sound, neighbors talking in hushed, angry tones. The same trader's voice rose above the others. "He's hiding them, I swear it. If the soldiers won't act, we will." The man looked out the window into the darkening street. The threat was no longer just soldiers. Now even the villagers he had once called neighbors were turning against him. Inside, the little girl whispered again, "Don't let them take us." The man clenched his jaw, his choice already made. "They'll have to go through me first." The village was no longer safe. By evening, angry whispers had turned into loud voices outside the man's house. Neighbors gathered in small groups, pointing at his windows, muttering threats. Some carried sticks, others carried lanterns. Their faces were filled with suspicion and fear. Inside, the little girl clung to the man's arm. "They hate us," she whispered, her voice shaking. The mother's face was pale but calm. She placed her hand on her daughter's head. "Do not be afraid." Then she turned to the man. "We must leave tonight. If we stay, they will burn this house down." The man shook his head firmly. "If you leave, you'll be hunted. You'll die out there." Her eyes locked on his. "And if we stay, you will die with us. I cannot let that happen." The man stood, his fists clenched. "This is my choice. I would rather face them than abandon you." The mother's voice broke for the first time. "Why? Why risk your life for people not your own?" The man looked at her, then at the girl in his arms. His voice was steady. "Because no one else would. Because you are not just strangers anymore. You are family now." The little girl's eyes filled with tears. She pressed her small hand against his chest and cried, "Don't die for us, please." But the man only smiled softly at her. "Some things are worth dying for." That night, as the crowd outside grew larger, torches lit the dark street. The neighbors shouted, "Bring them out! He's hiding them! He betrays us all!" Then came the sound of boots. Soldiers. The crowd parted as the captain approached the house, his face hard. "Enough lies," he shouted. "We will find them tonight." Inside, the man quickly led the mother and child back to the cellar. He looked at them one last time. "Stay quiet. No matter what happens, don't come out." The mother gripped his hand tightly. "You'll be killed." He pulled free, his eyes blazing. With determination. "Better me than you." He shut the trapdoor before she could argue. For a moment, silence filled the cellar. The girl buried her face in her mother's chest, tears soaking her clothes. The mother whispered softly, "He is giving us a chance. We must not waste it." Above them, the man opened the door and stepped out into the night. The crowd jeered, soldiers pushed forward, and the captain sneered. So you admit it, you protect them. The man stood tall. I admit nothing. But if you think I'll let you harm a child and her mother, you'll have to go through me first. The crowd roared in anger. Some shouted for his blood. Others looked uneasy. For the first time, doubt flickered in a few faces. They saw not a traitor, but a man standing bravely against fear. The captain raised his hand. Seize him. Soldiers moved forward, but the man didn't back down. His voice rang clear through the night. If you want to take them, you'll have to kill me here. But remember, what will your children think when they see you dragging away the helpless? What will history remember of this night? The words struck like fire. Some villagers lowered their eyes. Even one soldier hesitated, his grip on his weapon shaking. The captain's jaw tightened, rage flashing in his eyes. But before he could order the attack, a voice from the crowd shouted, Leave him! He's done nothing wrong! Another joined in. He's right. Are we monsters now hunting children? The crowd began to split, half demanding violence, half turning away in shame. Inside the cellar, the mother and child listened, tears in their eyes. The girl whispered, He's saving us. The mother held her close, her voice breaking. Yes, my child, he is giving everything for us. The night burned with firelight. Torches lit the street, soldiers stood ready, and the crowd was split between anger and doubt. The man stood alone at his doorway, his shadow long against the flames. The captain raised his sword, his voice sharp. Step aside, human. Hand them over. This is your last chance. But the man did not move. His eyes were steady, his voice calm. No, they are under my roof. They are under my protection. If you want them, you'll have to cut me down first. The crowd murmured. Some cheered the captain, others fell silent. A few villagers who once whispered against the man now looked at him with guilt in their eyes. His courage made them question their own fear. From the cellar below, the mother and child listened. The little girl clutched her mother's hand, her heart pounding. He will die, she whispered. The mother's eyes filled with tears. He stands for us. He gives us hope. Outside, the soldiers advanced. But the man lifted a wooden staff he had taken from his house. It was not a sword, not a weapon fit for war, but he held it with strength. Stay back, he shouted. This is wrong, and you know it. For a moment, the soldiers hesitated. The captain glared at them. Cowards! He's one man. Take him! The first soldier stepped forward, raising his blade. But then something unexpected happened. A voice from the crowd called out, Leave him alone! It was one of the villagers, an older man. He stepped closer, his face stern. He has harmed no one. You shame us by hunting children. Another villager, a woman who once spread rumors, lowered her torch and whispered, He is braver than all of us. The crowd shifted, torches lowered. Murmurs of doubt grew louder than the captain's orders. The captain's face twisted in anger. You fools! Do you not see? These creatures are dangerous. The man lifted his staff higher, his voice strong. Dangerous? She is just a child who was starving while you all turned away. If helping her is a crime, then I am guilty, and I would do it again. The crowd erupted. Some shouted in support of the man, others argued, but the balance had changed. The soldiers looked uneasy, caught between their captain's command and the people's rising voices. One soldier lowered his weapon, then another. Soon, half of them stood back, unwilling to strike. The captain growled, his pride burning. He pointed his sword at the man. If no one else will do it, then I will end you myself. He charged forward, sword raised. The man braced himself, gripping his staff tightly. His heart pounded, but he stood firm. At that very moment, the little girl burst from the cellar. She ran past her mother's desperate grasp and cried out, Stop! Don't hurt him! The crowd gasped. The captain froze mid-strike, his eyes narrowing at the sight of the small alien girl standing before them. She trembled but held her ground. He saved me! He saved my mom! If you want to hurt someone, hurt me! Her words pierced the night. The villagers stared, their anger melting into shame. Even the soldiers shifted uncomfortably. The captain's sword shook in his hand. The man stepped forward, placing himself between the girl and the blade. His voice was cold as steel. If you touch her, you'll have to kill me first. The silence that followed was heavy. Then slowly, torches began to lower. The villagers turned their backs one by one, walking away. Soldiers sheathed their swords, unwilling to fight anymore. Only the captain remained, his rage boiling. But with no crowd to support him, he finally spat on the ground and turned away. This isn't over. As the soldiers and villagers left, the night grew quiet again. The man dropped his staff, breathing hard. The girl clung to him, sobbing into his chest. The paw. Mother stepped out, her eyes wet with tears. She whispered, You faced them all, and you did not fall. The man looked at her, tired but steady. As long as I breathe, you will never be taken.